Greetings, fellow moviegoers, and welcome to Movie Central, the place to talk about movies, TV shows based on movies, toys based on movies, games based on movies, and rides based on movies. I'm your host, Mr. CCS, and this is my pet gorilla, George. I don't have much of a segue into this review, so I might as well mention the history leading up to this movie's birth, as well as filmmaker John Carpenter, but I literally have nothing else to say. At all. The story begins with a book written by John Campbell, known as Who Goes There. The book's story revolves around an alien monster stalking a crew doing scientific research in Antarctica. The book's impact led to an adaptation in 1951 called The Thing from Another World, or The Thing for short. While not as iconic as the Universal monster films, it is still noteworthy for a monster movie. However, part of the reason it became so noteworthy was because of a remake that was released in 1982 by American filmmaker John Carpenter. Carpenter's directing critics at the time were the 1978 slasher film Halloween, the 1980 horror film The Fog, and the 1981 action movie Escape from New York. I bring these three up because it seems that Carpenter mixed the styles of those three together to create this movie, which over 40 years later is still seen as an impactful masterpiece. We are going to find out today. This is John Carpenter's The Thing. In remote Antarctica, a group of American research scientists are disturbed at their base camp by a helicopter shooting at a sled dog. When they take the dog in, it brutally attacks both human beings and canines in the camp, and they discover that the beast can assume the shape of its victims. A resourceful helicopter pilot, played by Kurt Russell, and the camp doctor, played by Richard Dysart, lead the camp crew in a desperate, gory battle against the vicious creature before it picks them all off, one by one. This is a movie that I swear has only gotten better over time. Not only does it hold up massively after 40 plus years, but it's also a prime example of how to make a movie actually freaking scary. Seriously, I'm not easy to scare in regards to movies, but when a movie actually scares me, you know it's a good one. The premise is very well written and the story is very well executed. It's weird that most modern stuff can't make as intricate nor as well done stories as this movie, but here we are. So I've praised the story, but what else makes The Thing a special film? Well, let's find out. Kurt Russell at his finest. Honestly, it was a smart move to have one of America's toughest and most intimidating actors play the lead character in this movie. And boy does he deliver. R.J. McReady is easily one of cinema's toughest characters. Not only does his look with the rough hair and beard give him a hard exterior, but also serves as a way to show how much damage one really difficult situation can give you. All of the men on this station are in a really horrible place, but McReady, being a helicopter pilot, has seen way more than his comrades, and in turn earns the toughest exterior. Besides, he's the one with all of the crazy one-liners. What's not to love? This is easily one of Kurt Russell's most impeccable and best performances of all time, and it only gets better the more I think about it. Now, as far as the other characters, I don't see a need to mention them here. Now, you may think I'm cutting corners, but I'll explain what I mean. See, only two characters survived the ordeal, and those characters are McReady and Child, played by Keith David. The others are killed and turned into the iconic alien monster. So, I see no need to discuss them because I'm not entirely sure if most of the time they are infected. However, I can talk about the titular monster, because that is something that excites me. While I don't see the definitive form of this thing whenever it's on screen, there are a ton of gnarly forms it turns into. It mostly possesses a canine persona as well as human forms, even splitting limbs into other creatures, and finally this weird hybrid thing that for some reason doesn't haunt my nightmares, but you know, it probably would have. It's unlike anything that we've ever seen, regardless of whether or not that it's a mystery. If it's anything like the creativity the forms it took on in this movie are, I'm convinced that it's one gnarly savage beast. This is easily one of the most frightening monsters, and I swear it's only gotten better over time. And honestly, this is exactly what I need from a horror movie monster. Something outlandish and something otherworldly. So, with the characters out of the way, it's time to talk about the effects. Much like Alien, The Thing is known for its iconic practical effects, mainly in the form of puppetry and sculptures by Rob Bottin and Lance Anderson. Seriously, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Practical effects are nothing to scoff at, and these are examples of some of the absolute greatest of all time. And I cannot praise these things enough. Meanwhile, I look at other CGI creations these days and I'm just disappointed. Now, as far as the music goes, the score was composed by Ennio Morricone, who's best known for his work on The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, as well as a few other movies. Morricone did a fantastic job giving off a sense of fear, and also a great job at making the audience feel nervous. Another point to one of the greatest of all time. As far as the horror goes, well, here's every single scene that I think is worth mentioning. The infamous spider scene and the blood testing scene are the obvious ones that I would consider to be one of the greatest horror movie moments of all time, if not two. But I think the scene with the dog is also a major highlight because it sets the tone and the mood for the movie in a flawless and violent manner. And that is one of the reasons why this movie is so good. These are some of horror's finest moments when it comes to movies, and these should be textbook examples of how to make a scary scene. So overall, The Thing is another home run in the horror movie genre, and one of John Carpenter's finest outings. It's scary, fun, and everything horror should be. You know, there's a reason why many cite this as their favorite in the genre. This one, I think you should 100% check out, which is why it earns an 100% from me with a 10 out of 10. Better check if any aliens are in disguise before you watch this film. Well, that's about it for today. From one monster disguised as humans to another, next week we'll take a look at another movie with a monster in disguise. I'll tell you next week, because that's when I'll be back. With that said, my name is Mr. CCS, this is Movie Central, and that, my friends, is a wrap. See you next week.